Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumtown Podcast, episode 187. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving it a shot. Today's guest is the founder and director of Stick a Fork in It Culinary Classes for Kids. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by her story. Let's chop it up with Shawntay Gray. Shawntay, how's it going?
I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Glad to hear that, and all is well on my end too. First,
Great.
yes, ma'am. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you. My hat is tipped to you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, here to talk about all the great things you got going on with Stick a Fork in It Culinary Classes for Kids. But before we talk business, let's get to know the woman behind the brand. Born and raised in Canton, Ohio. What was life like in Canton for you?
It was interesting. Very interesting. I went to a predominantly white school where me and my sister would probably be the only brown spots walking around. I enjoyed the snow and I just had a great experience growing up. And I was definitely shell shocked when I moved down south to Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, good stuff. So I definitely appreciate you sharing that. Had a good time in Canton, Ohio, and made your way down to the Gump. So let's talk about that, Shantae. What was that culture shock you experienced when you got to the Gump?
Um, oh, I hate to say this, but like, oh, seeing all of the black people, seeing all of the brown people. So yeah, and being in an elementary school with kids that look like me and having teachers that look like me. That was just, it was a culture shock, and I know that sounds kind of like hard to believe, but it definitely was. Hmm.
No, it's not hard to believe, especially when you're talking about going to a predominantly white school in Canton. You coming down here and seeing a lot of people that look like you and I. I can imagine how you go from like, wow, like I'm the only in my school to now I'm amongst family. Like it can be shock to the system, definitely.
It was, and it definitely was. But hey, got in there, and like I say, I earned my stripes. So yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's
yes,
what it's all about. I mean, y'all made the move down here and you made the adjustments, you made the pivots, did what you had to do. So what was that? What was it that led you all from Ohio down to Alabama?
Um, well, there was a domestic violence situation with my mom and my stepdad. And I just can remember very vividly, that I could hear like crashing and I could hear noise and I could hear things breaking, but I didn't understand what was going on. And I really didn't know until 2009 when I was grown, when I thought back on the situation. And I just remember we packed up what we could pack up in our hands. And I remember our things were in her back seat in garbage bags. And I remember I had a pound puppy. I might be telling my age here, but I had a pound puppy named Rusty. Okay. And I, and I just remember to making sure to get Rusty so he wouldn't be left behind.
Okay, I appreciate you for sharing that.
So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and the next thing I know, we went to McDonald's. The next thing I know, we were in Saginaw, Michigan, and from Saginaw, Michigan, we were on the Greyhound bus here.
Hmm. Yes, ma'am. I
Yes,
appreciate you for sharing that, and sorry that that happened to your mom, and definitely commend her for having the courage to get up out of this situation and make that transition down to Alabama. Much respect to your mom.
yes, definitely, definitely.
Yes, ma'am. So make your way down to Montgomery, finish up rest of your schooling, graduate from JD, then you make your way over to the Alabama State
Yes,
University.
yes, yes, yes. Big Bama State. Don't play no games with it now.
You better believe it. So Shante, so Shante, how was the HBCU experience like for you?
Oh my gosh, it was everything that I wanted it to be because I grew up watching a different world and wanting that experience. I wanted friends like Whitley and Dwayne and Kim and Freddie and seeing all of the step shows and just learning about me and my culture and at the same time being educated. I wanted that experience in the Alabama State University definitely provided that experience for me. And I double majored in elementary education, and I will not take my experience for anything because I grew, I learned, And like I say, just a wonderful experience all around. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Double major. You cold with it. Hey, you the real deal. I could have never. Hey, that's all right right there for real. That's serious business. Like that takes a different
Yes.
level of focus and dedication. So salute to you for being a double major. And to your point about the HBCU experience, a different world. I grew up watching the same show, and yeah,
Mm.
just that experience and all that black excellence you get on the yard.
Yes, honey. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. All that black excellence from all over at that. You got people from the East Coast, West Coast, the South, of
Wow.
course,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
we all just came together over there on South Jackson Street and made some lifelong memories, you know?
Yes, definitely. So we're gonna move past that because you said we got to keep it rated G. So yeah, we had a
Oh,
good time. Yeah.
hey, no doubt. Hey, was understood ain't got to be explained. We had a good time, and that's hey, it is what it is. You know,
Yes.
from the yard to the rose, we had a good time, and
Oh,
that's what it was.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So upon graduating from the Alabama State University, did you go right into the workforce in your field? What was that transition upon graduating?
Yes, I went right into the classroom. My first teaching job was at Floyd Elementary, that's on Augusta Avenue. And I went straight into the workforce. I was a fifth grade teacher my first year out. And that was, oh, wow, that was way back in, whoo, the early 2000, 2005, I think it was. Yeah, 2005. And yeah, I stayed with teaching off and on and off, even worked as a sub. Um, and my last 2 years in the classroom were in Lowndes County. And I stopped teaching in 2023 to, figure out what else I wanted to do and what else was out there for me to do. And I have done that. And I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm the Montgomery coordinator for the Retired Seniors and Volunteer Program, which is sponsored by Meals on Wheels. So that's what I do now. I'm working with the other end of the spectrum. First it was kids, now I'm working with the population that's older. So
Hmm.
yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's awesome stuff. Just hearing your career and having a chance to be in education from '05 to 2023. And so you got a chance to be in the classroom prior to the smartphone era when
Oh
kids actually
wow,
when
yes.
yes, ma'am. I mean, because hey, I graduated I graduated high school in the early 2000s, well, mid 2000s, '06. So I came up in the era where there weren't any smartphones, where you went to class and yeah, you may joked around and had a good time, but for the most part, you paid attention to what the teacher had to say.
Definitely, definitely. And it's still eye-opening and shocking. Just as far as the technology that students have at their disposal, that they have in their hands. And it's just like, wow. It's just amazing. It's
Yes, ma'am.
amazing.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So, did you have to make any changes to your teaching style from the time you started from the pre-smartphone era moving to the smartphone era? Did you change your teaching style or did you keep it how you was when you first started in '05? I'm curious to know.
I definitely had to nip and tuck some things, but basically, education at its core is still going to be basically reading, writing, and arithmetic. I know you've probably heard that before, but education at its basis, at its foundation, is reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
yes, all of the other things fall into place when those things are the foundation and that foundation is laid, everything else will fall into place. You
Yes,
can
ma'am.
integrate all the technology, all of the science, all of the everything else once those foundations are laid and children have a firm understanding and grasp. I mean, they can grasp those concepts off and on and off. So that's just my core belief. And yes, I had to, change some things. I had to relearn some things. And whew, even the children are new. Even the children are different. But again, I say at the very core of it, they're still going to be children, and it's the adults that are around them that change.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
We have to be grounded and stay the same in certain aspects. But I'm gonna get off my high horse and my soapbox on that note. Yeah.
That's great stuff you're sharing. Everything you're sharing gems. I mean, that's really the fundamentals of education, like you said, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that's how I've understood it all my life, just growing up. Like if you know how to read, write, do some math, you'll be all right in this world. And unfortunately, the like you said, kids are gonna be kids, and it definitely comes back to the adults that they are around, that village.
Yes.
It
Mm-hmm.
definitely takes a village, and that village definitely got to, of course, praise them when they're doing the right thing, but hold them accountable.
Oh, of course, definitely, definitely, definitely.
Yes, ma'am. And just from what I see on the outside looking in, I'm not a parent yet. I just look at seems like the kids now is it just seems like that village doesn't it's like the village not coming with that accountability. Like when I came up in the 90s and 2000s, like the village laid the hammer down when you was out of pocket, Shawntay. I'm sure you can relate, like it wasn't no like if you was out of line playing around, grandma putting that belt on you. I mean, it was just
And
different then.
yes, definitely, you got dealt with on several occasions before you even got home. Because I can remember one time, you know what, I turned 13 years old, and I just thought I was grown. I was giving all the sass to my teachers one, on my birthday that day. And by the time I got home, my mom had my cake ready. It was an ice cream cake from Dairy Queen, okay? And so before I could just blow out the candles, she answered the phone, and the next thing I know, my mom took my cake and she put it in the sink and just ran water on it. I was like, wow.
Oh, man, that's painful right there. That broke my heart right there. Hearing that, godly, that's
The devastation was real. The devastation was real. And then I was, put on punishment. So I couldn't celebrate my 13th birthday party even my 13th birthday the way I wanted to. So, but I learned my lesson. I learned how not to cut up at school
yes,
anymore.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
See, that is a prime example of that village. And when you out of line, you're gonna get some
Mhm.
straightening. Like the village
Yeah.
didn't play back then. But I definitely understand. I appreciate you for being in the
You're
classroom as long as
welcome.
you were and educating the kids and helping them learn the basic fundamentals of life. So you went there, you were in education from '05 to 2023, teaching the kids. So what
Yes, off and on and
okay.
off. I segued that. I lived in Gaston for about 3 years, and I worked for a children's museum in Gaston, and that was kind of like, whoa, right up my alley.
Okay.
I'm a very creative, fun-loving person, and I'll tell anybody that comes, across me, I'm the biggest goofball that you ever want to meet. I'm silly. I love to have fun, so having that particular job really woke up the creativity in me that I knew was there, but it was lying dormant. So that was an awesome experience to work at a children's museum.
Mm.
We planned field trips, we put on different kind of programming, and it was an awesome experience. And I won't take that for granted because I've learned some things. I learned more about myself and how education can come in different forms. I definitely learned that lesson. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's good stuff. So you got a chance to transition out of the classroom, make your way up to Gaston. So was there any culture shock going from the Gump to Gaston for that period of time, or how was that transition for you? Uh, cause,
Well,
cause Shantae, before you answer that, I've been to Gaston a few times, and yeah,
you already know.
hey, it's just a certain. Let me
You
just say,
already know, and we'll put a pin in that.
yeah,
Yes.
it's some hard, yeah, it's a hard, it's some energy up in that air. You know where I'm going.
You already. Yes, and I'm just like, now wait now, but wait now, okay. And I also taught fourth grade at Donahue Elementary there. Those fourth graders are now in college. They're freshmen in college. One is attending UAB, and the other one is attending the University of Alabama. And I've been able to keep up with them through their parents and through social media. So that just does my heart proud. Yeah, really does.
Yes, ma'am. That's awesome stuff. So that's good stuff. So you got a chance to work in Gaston and like you said, spark that creativity, being in education, and then you make your way back to Montgomery to where you are present day. And like you were talking about, now you're educating on the other side of the spectrum. So what's the experience like for you educating older adults?
That I'm getting the education. I am getting the education. Um, and I mean, I have met some of the most amazing, remarkable people, and they're still giving, they're still going, and they have the most genuine giving spirits. They don't expect anything back or don't want anything back, for the hours that they selflessly give back to this community. Um, we have a group of ladies called the Archibald Quilters. So, and just imagine being in a room full of great grandma and grandma and big mama in them. And there's pound cake and there's sweet tea, and they're talking sass at each other and talking about men. And so I came in the room to just introduce myself, and they was like, "Baby, do you know how to sew?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know how to sew, but I've never used a sewing machine." All of this was new to me. So her name is Miss Lois Brown. I call her the leader of the pack. She said, "Well, you gonna learn today, baby." She said, "You want something to eat?" I was like, "No, ma'am." She made me eat something anyway. So the next thing I know, she has me using this sewing machine. And guess what? I messed up a couple of times and she popped me.
Mm.
She said, "You're not paying attention." And when I tell you, I was so tickled in that moment. I was like, "Oh, I just got popped." But I knew there was love and correction in that pop. And I and I was like, I kind of want another one. Like, yeah, I just got popped. But it's just that grandmotherly love and that wisdom. Just watching them do what they do and the care that they take when they're making those quilts, that they distribute to nursing home. It's just it's just amazing. So I learned a little bit about quilting. And quilting is a dying art, especially in the African American community. So to me, that was a very eye opening experience. So if you ever just want to get loved on and get fed and hugged and be told how cute you are, be affectionately called kiddo, yes, come 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 hang with those ladies. They will definitely just, love on you and not only teach you about quilting, but you learn a whole lot of life lessons just listening to them and the stories they tell through those quilts and what this specific patch means or what this specific design means. It was just an eye-opening experience. And they are great, and they're like some of my favorite volunteers. So yeah.
Mm.
And it's one I could go on and on and on and on, but time is of the essence.
Yes, ma'am. And that's awesome stuff. Just hearing you talk about that experience, just being around the elders and hearing that wisdom. And you spot on with that. That's one thing you will get when you just sit around elders, whether they're doing quilts, whether you're just sitting around with your uncles, aunties, grandparents, you just sit
Mhm.
around and just be a sponge. They give you so much game. And you just
Yes, yes.
and yeah, they just give you so much game. You like, man, and you just so appreciative of it. And I think I know for sure, like that's the one thing that it does make me sad to think about that our elders, the baby boomers, they're pretty
Mm,
much dying off and stuff. So it's just like eventually, it's like now I'm at the age now where I'm essentially known as Unc. So now I got to get my stuff together so I can be.
oh no, we the uncles and the aunties. I'm like, wait
Yeah.
now.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So just the same way that they sit down and just give us game and educate us, it's like now we got to pay it forward to the generation coming up behind us. So I just love to hear those type of stories, sitting around the elders, and it's so cool just being around them, being around the baby boomers. They didn't they weren't affected by the smartphone era, so their minds are sharp. Their minds
Right.
are
Yes.
so they can talk
Yeah.
about the quilts and they can talk about stories from the 70s and 80s. And we have a hard, boy, I speak for me. I have a hard time remembering yesterday sometimes because we're so distracted with,
Exactly. Right. Right. And like when she, I was jamming up the sewing machine. It's a whole situation. Okay. I thought it was simple. And and I kept jamming up and like she popped me. She's like, now you're not paying attention.
all right,
You're not not taking it serious. And I was just like, oh, I was offended at first because I'm like, look, who, lady, you, what. But I had to just be like, wow,
Right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
this was a little love tap. She really she really trying to show me something, but I'm like, she don't know me.
No doubt.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
it's grandma's hands, those grandma hands.
No
Yeah.
doubt. It's nothing
So it
like
was
it.
all in love. Yes,
That's
definitely.
good.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. So let's talk about what we're here to talk about today. Talk about what you got going on at Stick a Fork in It culinary classes for kids.
Let's go. Yes.
So I gotta ask you, Shawntay, when did you first discover your gift of cooking?
I will first off say I don't have a gift of cooking. I have a gift of eating. I like to eat good things, okay?
Okay.
But I do like to try different recipes. And I'm just gonna um rewind back to COVID. Everybody was on lockdown, all of the things like that. So I got to watching cooking shows. I'm obsessed with cooking shows. I love the Food Network. I love cooking shows. And so, during COVID, I was just like, oh, I've never heard of that. I've never seen anybody try that. That would be interesting, and then I started getting into kids shows, the kids baking championships, and there's even one where kids come and do barbecuing, contests. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't have sense enough to do any of this. Like when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, you know what I'm saying? I was like, this is
Mhm.
so fascinating to me that these kids are well versed in the kitchen and in the culinary arts, and they're doing all of these amazing things. I want to bring that to life in my own life, so to speak. I want to give every child that opportunity to discover that they might be a chef one day. They might have the gift of baking one day. So that's where that was, that's where that came.
Okay.
And, those recipes we see, they're definitely easy to follow recipes. I kind of nip them and tuck them, so to speak, and like, okay, make it child friendly and child centered so we can get it done. And if it doesn't turn out the way we expected it to do, we stop, ask questions. What went wrong? We discuss it, we scrap it, and we try it again.
Mm.
Now, do I try the recipes prior to class? Sometimes, maybe. And then sometimes I want to learn as they're learning. So we all asking the questions that need to be asked. So if they're shocked at something, I'm like, hey, I'm shocked at something too. If they have a revelation about how to do a thing or how to prepare a thing or something, I want them to be able to verbalize and vocalize and share that with me too.
Mm.
So I could be like, wow, yeah, you know what? You are right. I'm in agreement with that. So yes. And I have come across some amazing chefs and chefettes. That's what I call them, chefs and chefettes.
Mm.
Absolutely amazing kids. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's awesome stuff. Just hearing you talk about it, hearing that passion, that excitement in your voice about what you get to do in terms of teaching these kids a very fundamental survival skill. Cooking is definitely
It is.
definitely survival skills. So that's good that you're you're exposing them to that, and you let them know that, hey, like you said, you can be a chef, you can be a culinary artist, and I just think it's great. And cooking, I'm no culinary artist. I'm average at best, but cooking is fun when you can get all your ingredients together on one table and you put
It's,
them all together in the bowl and you put it in the oven. You're like, wow, all that came from that. So
I
cooking is pretty dope.
I did that. I made that. And my first cooking class,
Mhm.
big shout out to the Rufus A. Lewis Library. That's where I held my first class. They sponsor um some kids like, every 3 months or whatever. I actually had two girls, and I have the picture somewhere. I'm like, y'all okay? Y'all good? And they were like, we just gonna sit here and look at it. And I'm like, okay. And then the next thing I know, kind of like put their arms around each other and their heads were together and they actually started crying. And I was like, "Am I right?" I'm a cry. So when I see somebody cry, the next thing I'm going to do is cry. They was like, when we first came in here, we didn't want to be here. I thought it was going to be some baby stuff. And, but I don't get to cook that much or do anything. I thought it was going to be something basic and simple, but we actually got to cook. And, they made zucchini noodles and garlic parmesan chicken. I like or zoodles. And they
Mm.
was like, I've never tasted anything like this. So their experience was definitely immersive. And that's the experience I want every child that comes into one of those cooking classes to have. And I want them to look back on that experience to
Mm.
grow them or to share it with another child that will come into their life.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I just great that, like I said, just great that you exposing them to that survival skill of cooking. That's some amazing stuff. And kids getting exposed to that and like taking a break from the phones and the tablets and
Mm-hmm.
being forced to be present. Because one thing about cooking forces you to be present, Shawntay. You can't be scrolling, or
Oh
otherwise
yes,
you're gonna burn
yes,
some up.
yes, 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 definitely.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So so whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, I like to talk about three things. I like to talk about the aha moment, action, and audacity. So I know you were saying during COVID, which is watching those cooking shows, that was your aha moment to create this business.
Definitely, yes. And also, being in the classroom, children don't get to do those things. They don't get to have those experience on a consistent basis. And then there's so much red tape as a classroom teacher to just say, hey, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, this is just what we're going to do today. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, ugh, I want to get away from that. I want to call my own shots. I want to pretty much do what I want to do without all of the red tape and without all of the no's that are involved. And if someone's going to say yes to me, I want me to be saying yes to me first.
Okay.
So I had audacity, right? Yeah.
Hey, most definitely, most
Big
definitely.
audacity.
Big
Yes. Mhm.
audacity, most definitely, and that's actually and it's actually the question after the one I'm about to ask next. So from you had your initial aha moment and you had that audacity to make that move, how long did it take you to come up with a name and get the LLC and all that stuff rolling?
It's actually a nonprofit organization. So what I did, I was teaching at Valiant Cross at the time. And so we were just, chopping it up, the guys and we were just kind of like taking a brain break. And I don't know how we all started talking. I said, well, this is what I think I want to do. And I was like, 5 points to who can find me a good name. Who can find me a good name? And so I said, if you had a business, just your own business, what would it be called? And so we were just all like kind of throwing the basketball back and forth at each other. And so that they really got down with it. And they were emailing all of their names and they were making suggestions because what started off just like a little simple class project, I really got the feedback and their stick of fork was. And I was like, oh, okay. And then somebody said, stick a fork in it. Stick a fork in it, cooking class. And I said, cooking? I said, let's be fancy. I said, culinary. The boys didn't know what that term meant.
Okay,
So again, there was a learning opportunity right there. So stick a fork in it, culinary classes was born.
that's very
With
organic way
yeah,
you came up with the name. I like that. You
yes,
hey
and it stuck, and I was like, "Ooh, it's
yeah.
good, it's
Hey.
good." So the first thing I did is I googled the name, okay, and I went and got the name registered, and I was like, "Let's go,
Mm.
let's go."
That's how you do it. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you incentivize the kids, and they came with a catchy name because that's definitely one of the things that caught my eye. I was like, stick a fork in it, culinary classes for kids. I mean, like very catchy, very organic. Thanks for sharing that story.
And shout out to the scholars at Valiant Cross. They helped Miss Gray
Yeah.
come up with that. I love you guys.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So that last portion, audacity, is one thing to have an idea. It's another thing to put action behind the idea. But to put it out to the world to be praised or criticized, that's where the audacity comes in. And just hearing
Mm.
and just hearing you talk, it sounds like you gave yourself that audacity.
Yes, I gave myself permission to bet on me. And I went for it. Was there fear involved? Definitely, because I was like, now who you have this idea. Now, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to get this? And where are you going to get that? Is it something that's viable? Is it something that's going to stick? Like I was scared. I stayed up nights worried about it until I finally made the decision to be like, okay, let me just call around and see who might want this. I just started doing cold calling. And like I said, I called the Rufus A. Lewis Library. Boom, got to speaking. Her name is Miss Stacy Williams. She was a director of the children's wing of the library. I'm not sure exactly what her title was, but her name is Stacy Williams. And we talked and we sent emails and different correspondences. And the next thing I know, yes, the first class was held there. And I have been part of their programming since about 2020. Yeah, for 2 years. For 2 years. Yes.
Okay.
And they sponsor up to 10 kids. So I'm still in shock, in awe
Yes, ma'am.
that
Absolutely.
I took a chance and they took a chance on me. And so, yeah, even when I recall that, I'm about to start tearing up because wow, because sometimes you forget the things that you do because you're in the moment. And I can honestly look back and say that was like one of those wow factors
Mm.
in my life. Yeah, definitely.
Mm. Yes, ma'am. That's powerful, and I just love hearing you talk about just having that audacity and being willing to step out there and cold call. You did it scared, you did it afraid, and
I
honest.
did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, trying to tell you that's how it works. Like something that's worth having, something that's actually going to take some real work and is going to pay off. Those things are scary because everything that we're used to doing, those things are easy. They don't scare us. They don't stretch us either. Like they don't take us out of our comfort zones either when we just stick to what we know. But being willing to bet on yourself, being willing to call around and just ask. I mean, because the worst thing that we're going to say is no. But the fact that
Right.
you, right.
Right.
But the fact that you had the courage to step out there and honestly, that's what I've learned in my life, just in terms of faith and just making a move before you're ready, before like just making a move. Because one thing about it, I've I've yet to see in my life where I made a move and God didn't help me the rest of the way. And it's not and check it out, Shante. That's just how it works. I can't explain it, but I think a lot of people get paralyzed by overthinking and like, man, it's so scary. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like the time gonna pass anyway. Like don't put yourself in a spot where you're looking back 10 years down the road with regret, you know?
And singing the woulda, shoulda, coulda song. Ooh, that's a horrible have on replay. Okay, on your Spotify list, get it off. Yes. Uh,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
definitely do it afraid, do it scared. And I'm definitely an overthinker. I'm definitely that person. And that's why I was just like, you know what, is now or never. You done started collecting recipes. You have, started collecting this and borrowing and begging and it's showtime. What you gonna do? So, and that's exactly what I did. I showed up for me,
Mhm.
and I'm like, now it's time for me to show up for these kids, and the rest, as they say, is history. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's powerful stuff. So you done great things with the foundation, the nonprofit organization. I know great things are coming down the pipeline, which leads to my next portion.
Thank
Vision.
you.
What are some of your short-term and long-term goals?
My short term goals right now is to get more exposure, to get, more students into the classes and to get more bookings. And I'm definitely working with the Rufus A. Lewis Library to have it as a main program. other than just, every 3 months or so, or 3 times out the year. Those are my short term goals. And to offer more classes during the spring break time and in the summer. And I started doing that last year, offering classes during the summer. And my long term goals, to officially open up a brick and mortar where I can have a forever home. Because I currently have partnered with Renfro's out in East Chase, and they let me hold classes out there. So that's it for right now.
Okay, awesome stuff. Those are great goals,
Yeah.
both short term and long term. And I have no doubt you'll put in the work. You'll have the audacity to put in the work and make them all come to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. As we wrap up the podcast, I want to ask $1 million question. So, I started this podcast because I wanted to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery. Whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work, you spending most of your life in Montgomery and operating in business in Montgomery. I got to ask you, Shawntay, what do you appreciate the most about the city of Montgomery?
The growth that I see, how far Montgomery has come from, just 5 years ago, from when I graduated high school back in 19. But
Hmm.
so there are some things that have remained the same, which are easy fixes, but that's a conversation for another day. And just the growth and the progress that I've seen. I've had like I said earlier, I had the opportunity to meet some just dope, fantastic people, with different business ideas, visionaries, innovators, from all spectrum of business, whether it be commerce, whether it be entertainment, whether it be in fields of military, and the business that are coming to Montgomery. I've had the opportunity to sit in several rooms where conversations are being had as far as growth and what that looks like for the city, for women, for people of color, and the growth potential here. So I would definitely say that. Yes, and all is not lost in Montgomery. I know Montgomery gets a bad rap, and I'm an optimist, so and I want to stick around, and I want to see, so I can be like, told y'all, but now.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
definitely that. Artists, musicians. I mean, it's just a time is gonna be had here. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome stuff. That's some powerful stuff. So, Shantae, how can people connect with you? What are your social media handles and website?
Oh, my website is stickaforkinatmontgomery.org. Go to that website. You will get to learn more about me. You will get to see some great pics, and all of the things, book classes, and just learn more about the organization. My Facebook page is Stick a Fork in It Culinary Classes for Kids. And that's how you can connect with me, like and follow all of those things. And I'll be responding right back to you.
Okay, too easy. Sounds good. Now, of course, I'll put all the information in the description of the episode. Hey, Shantae, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And you keep doing big things, and you keep rocking and rolling as well.
Yes, ma'am. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumtown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Gone.